Hello everyone, I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Mom.
And this is Millennial and Mom. And today we are back to review / recap Season 11, Episode 10 of Married at First Sight, New Orleans, Deal Breakers. And we can already think of a few. But let's get into the review. Okay, so for this episode, they had a few things that were quite interesting that happened.
I agree.
Yeah?
For sure.
So we're going to start off, not with all the breakfast scenes we started with the couples. We're going to start with the Karen and Miles incident because it carried over again to the morning. And I thought it was very interesting to see how people took his comments and how people took her comments.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it just depends on not just how you see this couple, but just how you see things in ordinary life. Mm-hmm. Because it went 50-50 on both ways. But I'm going to say the majority of the comments were for Miles. Because a lot of people who were for Miles was like, okay, you know, you shouldn't have to deal with that. But a lot of people for Karen was like, well, maybe she had things going on in her life. Like maybe she's been abused or something growing up or something like that. But yeah, it definitely was different. But what I will say is this episode, I'm surprised that she left, but I'm also surprised she came back because Miles didn't seem like he understood why she left at first. But when she came back, she apologized. She explained how it made her feel, how it made her feel unsafe. And that was also a buzzword, the unsafe comment by Karen, because that just created a whole bunch of controversy, especially because Miles works with kids, and that is a buzzword.
Also, with that unsafe comment, I felt like she kind of went on to explain why she used that terminology, because she felt like, well, we only been kissing for right now, we haven't moved forward, so why would he want to jump forward and do all these extras when he knows that I'm not even in that headspace? But really, does he know, or is it something you're trying to give off and not tell him?
I mean, there's been so many mixed signals with Karen. So many. It's not just Karen's, another couple or two on the show. But that Miles doesn't seem to know. Like, they're on different love pages and different love messages, how they view love, just love in general. Versus, you know, Miles said he's been in 6 relationships where he's loved and had love for everybody, versus Karen had that one elusive love where apparently has taken over her mind, where the fact that she doesn't seem like she can get past it for right now.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting as well when you said that she did come back to the house and she did explain everything that she was going on, and I was surprised that she came back, to be honest, because she said it was over in the confessional, but she came back and was like, oh, let's work it out, sitting all comfortable on the couch. And Miles, I, for the first time, think I kind of felt bad for Miles in that situation because he looked defeated.
He did. And I can see what you mean, the empathy, but I've always had empathy for Miles. You haven't. You came along a little bit on the late side. But it's just the fact that she has seemed to have not strung him along, but just have been so standoffish that it's hard for Miles to continue to give when he's not receiving anything from Karen. So,
And then we have this quick scene with Amani and Woody. And every time, it's like they grow on me, and then Woody does something I don't like, and then they grow on me some more. But this scene, they grew on me with the cooking. I guess Woody doesn't separate his laundry. I was like, do you really need to separate your laundry?
You do. And you don't either, so, yeah.
Then they get into this conversation about, you know, kids and, like, would you whoop your child? Woody's like, yeah, you know, sometimes you need to whoop your child. And Amani's like, that's a deal breaker for me. You can't whoop your child, because he works with kids too. So I guess something that she put in his mind was like, well, you don't whoop your kids at school, but they listen to you, right? He was like, yeah, I'm going to have to agree.
He hasn't thought about that before, but it's different with other people's kids, especially at school. You just can't do that with other people's kids. But again, this relates to how you grew up. Just because she didn't get whoopings, and he said he got whoopings every day, he doesn't see anything wrong with it. Now, he did go on to say that, you know, you're not supposed to stomp your kids out, like abuse them.
No one said all that.
But some people look at whooping as stomping your kids out and abusing them, snatching, whatever. And that's not what he was coming from. But she just said that was a deal breaker in general. So that is something they will have to work on.
And if it comes up, I don't think Woody would press the issue that much. So with Brett and Olivia in this episode, we actually see them stepping out more. And the first occasion is to rock climbing. And I guess rock climbing is Brett's thing, but it didn't look like it was his thing when he was rock climbing. I'm like, Brett, you look like you're struggling. Is this something you do every 6 months, or is this something you do recreational? Because knowing him, being a homebody,
It doesn't matter when's the last time you did it. If you like something, you're interested in it, that's something that he likes to do. So Olivia decided, let's do what Brett wants to do so he can open up more. Because clearly last episode, he didn't like the swamp tour.
Exactly. But do you think he really opened up more in this scene, or was it just because it was something that he likes to do?
I think he didn't necessarily open up more. It's something that he likes to do, and he was happy to do it. I think Olivia got to see something that made Brett happy.
Yeah, and on top of that, Olivia did notice that Brett was cheering her on, and she was like, oh, he's so supportive, he's so nice. I'm like, Olivia, do you really think this is going to last? Because Brett, he's just so up and down and left and right, just like Henry and Karen. It's like they all have the same theme of not being in accord with their couple.
Mixed
except for Amelia.
messages.
Yeah, except for Amelia and Ben and Woody and Amani.
So that leads us to the next part of the show where a few couples meet up separately. I'm surprised they didn't meet up all together, which was different.
I was glad they didn't meet up all together because sometimes I don't feel like they need to. They just need to be separate so, they can get a different range of people.
Yeah, but they're there to support each other too. But I'm surprised that the besties, Miles and Woody,
Haven't met up yet?
haven't met up since the very first time when they came back. So I find that interesting.
I think that was purposeful on the experts since they already knew that they were friends. They didn't want to match them up together because they would be ace boom coon together in the restaurant.
So the first few couples to meet up, they have crawfish. And it's funny, like, they're trying to figure out how to eat it. Now, just because you're from New Orleans, that doesn't mean you eat crawfish all the time. I mean, that'd be like us going to... People think we go to casinos all the time, and that's not true.
So Amani, of course, is over here leading the whole conversation because they're the one who has the strongest connection. So Amani asks Brett, hey, are you and Olivia starting to, like each other more? And Brett, he says, yeah, I think we're becoming more in likeness with each other. I'm like, I don't believe this.
But Olivia looked like, oh, I guess we are. We kind of went rock climbing. That's the vibe I got from her face.
I told you, Olivia only goes with what Brett says for now. I can't wait till she does her own thing like she does when she's on her confessionals. And then Woody goes over to Christina and Henry. It's like, you guys look a little happier, a little jovial,
A little comfortable.
And I was like, that's what Mom said last episode, that they look more genuine together, even though I kind of didn't really believe it. But you know what surprised me? I think out of the entire episodes I've been on, the whole 10 episodes.
What?
That Henry spoke up more and said that Christina looked sexy. I didn't even think that was in his dictionary. Sexy? Really?
I mean,
salsa dancing?
Just because he's so reserved, that don't mean he can't think something or someone is sexy.
It's not about him being reserved. It's about him not expressing any emotion or even conversations to Christina. That even took Christina aback.
It did. But he said it and the table was like, whoa. And I was like, okay, Henry, so you're starting to open up just a little bit. But when Amani decided to take Henry to the side to have a conversation about what was going on, Henry just took a whole 360, or is it a 180?
It's a 180. He flipped the script.
And he told Amani that, yeah, they're getting along for now, but he doesn't see this going anywhere because he just can't get past her impatience. And it's a deal breaker.
I was laughing the whole time because Amani was like, oh, okay.
You were laughing. I was like...
Because Amani, she didn't really know what to do. That's not something you would expect if at the table with everyone, you saying your wife looks sexy and you over here looking, like a happy couple. And then you're over here like, she's just too impatient for me. I don't think we can do this.
Well, maybe he felt comfortable with Amani.
He did feel comfortable, or he has some more of his wine that he likes to drink.
So after Amani and Henry were talking, I thought we were going to see Woody, Brett, and Henry talking too next to the side. But that wasn't the case. It was Amani and the ladies, Olivia and Christina. And the thing is, Amani told Christina almost word for word what Henry said. And Christina was like, well, he never said that to me. I mean, he just told me I was sexy. And I've never heard that before. And I'm like, well, that's true. It's like, just like you said last week. How do you say all these things in confessional, but you can't say it to your spouse?
It's not even a confessional. It was with somebody else. It goes back to what you said. How can you say that to somebody else or confessional, not to Christina? And I really don't understand why he can't say that to Christina, because Christina hasn't been that pushy and mean to him.
Well, I think that's the answer to the question. I think maybe he feels Christina would dominate the conversation. And since Henry is relatively checked out, he's just not trying to hear anything she's got to say.
The extras. Then we see Amelia and Bennett and Miles and Karen meet up to play this game that I once again had zero clue of what Amelia and Bennett had up their sleeve.
Bocce ball. It's you throw out the little starter ball and everyone takes the bigger balls and you try to get to the smaller ball the fastest or something.
You played this before?
You know, I think I did once or twice.
Well, the rules of this game was whoever was the winner was going to get a kiss. And that's when you heard the music stop. They were here, Miles and Karen looking at each other. I'm like, yeah, because you guys just got out of a little entanglement. And not even in a good way earlier. So I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. But I guess they made it work, because Bennett was like, well, you know, it could be anywhere.
Yeah, and it was Bennett's idea of like where to kiss, stuff like that. But when he won, you know, he lifted up his shirt for the belly button. I'm like, you know what? I think they're a little undercover over there.
Who, Bennett and Emilia? Of course they are. We already established this.
And then, you know, Miles won a game and it was kiss the nose. I guess Karen was trying. I'm going to have to see a little bit more from Karen, because this conversation overnight to today and playing bocce ball is just not enough for me.
I thought it was very, very funny that Miles won the last one and he told Amelia and Bennett, was like, okay, audience, you guys can pick where she can kiss me. Karen was like,
right. And Bennett was like, the lips? Like, where else?
It's like he knew there was tension, but he was like, I'm just here for it. He was here for all the tea that was being spilled. I saw that, Bennett. But, you know, Karen was a little bit hesitant, as usual, being her normal self. But she ended up kissing him because she wanted to make it seem like she was trying. And you know what? At this point, if that's what Karen thinks is trying, and if that's what Miles accepts, I have no other words for it. Now, back at Christina and Henry's house, Christina laid it on him really light, like, oh, so what did you and Amani talk about?
You know what? I don't think it was light. I think it was the calm before the storm, because see, if she had raised her voice like Henry's used to her doing, or going off, or whatever the case may be, that would have pushed him away. So in order for Henry to have conversation, she had to be like, so what you and Amani talk about? Because she knew all along, and Henry didn't think that she knew. Because when she got in a conversation like, you know what, Amani told me what you said, this and that, Henry didn't deny it. He tried to at first.
But you know what I think it's funny? That Henry hangs out with all of these females, and he didn't think that Amani was going to get back to Christina what he said.
I don't know what he thought, but I think he was surprised by the knowledge that Christina had from Amani, because again, like we said, he tried to deny it at first, but he went ahead and admitted it. It's like, you know what? You're just too impatient for me. But these are things she hasn't heard already. She's just trying to accept the things he's been saying. And I think because when she told him about her mental health issue, that may have cut her some slack, but really it didn't, because Henry
didn't do nothing.
He was pretty much telling her, listen, you know, if I had to make a decision today, the answer would be no.
But are we surprised by that answer?
Christina was surprised by the answer.
I don't think Christina was 100% surprised by that answer. She can't be. It's impossible. So then, Karen and Miles is back at the house. And Karen, can you believe she said she had a good time?
Yes and no.
Is that the first time you ever heard her say that she had a good time?
I'm starting to feel like Henry with Karen. It's yes and no for me. I don't know. It's like she's impatient and all these other things. Like, I don't know.
Well, they had a good time overall. And it was interesting because Miles says, you know, when we actually do stuff together, I actually feel married. But, you know, we can't have a good Karen scene without her saying married-ish. Just a little bit.
That's why I said yes or no. It's
stranger
like,
acquaintances.
Yeah,
now move to married-ish. I'll take married-ish if Miles is taking married-ish.
How about like the TV show? We be grown-ish and know that we're on Married at First Sight.
Ooh, well, we'll go with that too. So later on, we finally get to see Miles and Woody together. Not coupled up, not with the boys, just them two together. And I was finally happy we got this scene.
Me too, because Miles has been needing Woody for some weeks. And seriously, and I'm like, how come we don't see you calling or texting your best friend, because he's struggling right now? And the conversation turned when Miles was telling Woody all the things that weren't necessarily positive, what was going on in his marriage, and Woody's like, what?
All I could think of was Woody was like, you better than me.
That's what it came down to. You know what, man, you better than me. Like, he can even imagine if Amani did that to him. Like, I would have been blowing her phone up. And the thing that he said was warming was, you know, I don't want Miles to compromise who he is.
Right, because when he was asking Miles, you know, well, do you think Karen actually likes you? He was like, yeah, I think she likes me. And I'm like, Miles, do you really think that? But okay, if you think that, you think that. But Miles is like, you know, she just wants to take things slow. You know, just wants to take time because she's been hurt before and all that other stuff. And I think it's really nice that he wants to take that into consideration. But it's also, as Woody said, you know, it's nice that you want to take it slow, but don't take it too slow to where, you know, you're compromising yourself.
Exactly.
And at this point, it really does seem like he's compromising himself for Karen. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, I feel like he's doing that at this point in this episode 100% of the time, while she's giving almost nothing. And it's kind of getting exhausting on Karen's end. Then we finally get to see one of our top runners, Amelia and Bennett. Bennett decides to make some tofu peanut sauce, which sound really good, for Emilia because, no to you? Well, he decided to do that for her because she's been so emotionally generous towards him. And I'm like, I have never heard of that word before.
Well, you're not theatrical or on cloud nine or sitting on the cotton candy cloud like they both are. You know, he was going on to say, like, when he was sick and asking for that ginger tea, how Amelia helped to heal him. But you know what? That was nice. And she's a doctor, so maybe she could have helped him out a little bit more. But he just wanted to show his appreciation. And one of the things was a surprise was his friends coming over to sing a song. Now, when they knocked at the door and they came in, I was just distracted by the whole outfits. I'm thinking, are they part of the theater group? Because they would have to be by what they had on.
They have to be, because last week when we saw it, Mom thought they would look like crawfish, because I was like, who is at the door? But one looked like a nun and the other one looked like a goat. I was like, what is happening? But they sang this beautiful song.
Honestly, I didn't hear the song. I was distracted by the costumes.
I looked past the costumes and I heard the song and it was so beautiful. I was like, Amelia, go get your guitar and go join them. They could just be a whole unit together.
She clearly was distracted too.
Well, then later on, we see Karen and Miles. Is this their first date?
This is their first date. Oh my goodness.
And this was done by Karen?
I'm sure with the help of the fourth wheel.
Let's just say it's done by Karen, just so we can play devil's advocate here. It was done by Karen, and I thought it was finally a nice gesture because, once again, she said she's trying to be more affectionate because she wants to meet his needs. So I'm like, okay. So they're at like a meditation massage place, and she has to give the massage to Miles. Mm-hmm. So the instructor says, okay, start with the warm towel on his feet, take off his socks. They're like, ooh. I'm like, Miles, you ashy? What's going on?
I wasn't concerned about him being ashy. I was like, do you have the right socks on? Because you remember how Bennett's socks be.
Overall, the massage looked good. It looked like Miles was really, really, really enjoying himself.
Oh, yes, he was really, really. And I'm surprised the camera people weren't shady.
I'm surprised, too. They probably cut it out. Someone probably made him take it out.
Maybe.
But after that, Miles just expressed how much he was so thankful for this experience, how they feel a little bit more closer. And Karen, she seemed like she actually enjoyed this date. What did you think about that?
I think Karen enjoyed the date too, but I think the vibe I got from it, that's something that Karen might like to do in general. She gives me the yoga therapeutic vibe as an activity that she would do normally. That's what I got from her. Next, we have Olivia and Brett out for their evening. Now, Olivia decides to take Brett to do something she likes to do. That is play trivia with her friends. And they get in there, and I'm really hoping they're going to have a good time because, see, Olivia said that Brett is more intellectual, so this is something like right along his alley that he would like to do. But once he got in there and the host started giving the trivia, Brett's like, that's not trivia. This is dumb. Like, what is this? And Olivia's friends were trying to encourage Brett, like, come on, Brett, you got this. And he just wasn't with it. He just didn't want to participate. And I didn't like that. He at least tried because Olivia tried and did what you like to do.
Exactly.
For the rock climbing. You could see the annoying side come out of Olivia, like, I can't believe this. Like, she was embarrassed. And then Olivia goes talk to her friend outside about Brett and how she doesn't think, like, things are going well and how he shuts down all the time.
I already knew that. I already knew that from back with the rock climbing thing. Like, she said that she felt something like, oh yeah, we're finally bonding. But it's kind of like Brett and Olivia don't really bond unless it's something, to me, that Brett likes to do. It's never anything that Olivia likes to do.
That's a really good point because the swamp tour last week was something Olivia liked to do, and trivia, something Olivia liked to do, and he's not with it. And the activities that she's choosing aren't like budget breakers. Like, these are regular activities. So, if it's a money thing that he keeps talking about, which he didn't this episode, but in all the other episodes, then he doesn't have anything to worry about. She's trying to be open, and I could see her being annoyed more and more. Now, I do believe and feel Olivia has been pushy with her agenda, but Brett, to me, just has never been flexible. I thought maybe last episode when he opened up just a little bit at the end of the tour with all the animals that came out, maybe there was a spark, but he went back in for me.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the cats, I don't think they'd still be together right now. And then we get to the scene where we see sunshines and rainbows from Amelia and Bennett on their bike, just holding hands on cloud 9. I was like, okay, this is a cute scene. But you know what? A little bit more and a little bit more on Bennett's face. Sometimes it kind of looks like he's a little annoyed. But I don't know if it's about the whole situation or about Emilia. So he wants to start getting into conversation of like, what annoys you about me? Because he knows from his past relationships that things have failed in the past because he put people on pedestals, and he knows that there's something there, like they're still at the honeymoon stage, like Pastor Cal tried to tell him the last time. But he finally came back around. It was like, you know what? Something has to give. We're not going to be all rainbows and sunshines and gumdrops and all this stuff right now.
You know what? And one of the things, too, that he's probably still thinking about, earlier scenes that we didn't touch on, was when they did the chore thing. And turns out that Amelia doesn't do a lot of chores. And when she does, she only does them halfway.
Exactly. Like the dishes. Who doesn't wash the outside of the dishes?
Or the rims of the cup. But hey, I guess Amelia doesn't. Well, Bennett is just really trying to figure out like what bothers her, like what gets it underneath her skin, whether it be me or what. And Amelia, I'm telling you, she won a golden ticket to the Willy Wonka chocolate factory.
She does.
Everything's so sweet and chocolate and airy and cotton candy. I think Bennett's annoyance is legit because there's got to be something. There's something that bothers everyone. It could be a piece of lint on the floor.
No, I wrote some of the stuff he said down. Are you ready?
Yes.
He said he does this thing with the throat that he gargles with.
Oh, yeah. And then
that
he also
annoys
said
him.
He picked his nose, too, or something.
She's like, oh, well, that just is beautiful sounding noise. And you picking your nose is just so charming. And you know what? I don't wear deodorant, too, sometimes. And that's okay. And he's just like,
this can't be real. Like, his face is like, she's kidding, right?
No, she's not.
I know.
And I'm just like, girl, something has to annoy you. Even he found some stuff about him. Maybe, I don't know if she's not trying to hurt his feelings or if she's really that smitten head over heels. I have zero clue what it is.
I think it's a little bit of both, and she doesn't necessarily want to rock the boat because it's so new and this is something that she wants. But I still think they're a match.
Or does she really want him to move with her? So I think the conversation that Woody had with Miles earlier in the barbershop had him like thinking and second guessing. It was like, let me go talk to Amani. So it was a good time. They had dinner on their own.
They did, and let me stop you right there. Their food looked good. I was like,
So he brought up the topic of, how do you feel that I said that I loved you? Do you feel like it's bringing too much pressure on you? Do you think I'm overstepping boundaries? Because, you know, she didn't really say it back to him. Like, what is it? And she's like, you know, it's more like yes and no.
I like her honesty about it because she's really been upfront with Woody. I think out of all the couples, Amani has been the most upfront of the women. And Bennett has been the most upfront with the men.
Not Miles?
No. No.
Not Woody?
And to say yes and no because it is too soon, what she said, and it is too soon. But, you know, people do fall in love or like slower, faster than the partner. And she was saying how, you know, did she feel like she was doing something wrong because she didn't have that love right now? But she can feel, you know, she's moving towards it. And also, too, she was scared from what's happened in her past. And I think telling Woody that and being honest with him, even on the honeymoon, they had a little bit of this conversation, that he takes that into consideration. But I think Woody's starting to have maybe a little sprinkle of doubt somewhere with that conversation that he had with Miles, just based on the things that his best friend is going through.
I think that sprinkle of doubt sprinkled some doubt on Amani as well, because then she's like, you know, now that you already said that you love me and I didn't say I love you back, it's kind of like she's on a timeline of like when she can say it, because she doesn't want him to fall out of love or pull back some. And I can see that. And you know, Woody's like, I'm in this for the long haul. There ain't no divorcing me, baby. And she's like, think again. Lastly, we have Christina and Henry. Now, once again, I have to say that Christina and Henry do seem a little bit more genuine this episode. I don't know who gave them the bucket of questions. I don't know if they made it up, producers gave it up. But you know what? Who I'm going to say it was? I'm going to say it was the experts. I'm going to say they are the ones who delivered it to them.
I want to know, where are the experts? Where have they been? There's too many couples on this show that are starting to sink. Their boat is sinking. They need help, and they need help now.
That's why I said maybe it was them who gave them the questions, because, I don't know, they just need to be somewhere. Because the questions actually seem like it opened them up a little bit.
I think the questions to me were the same, just worded differently. Because the answers were the same from them both, just worded differently. I mean, how many times does Henry have to tell Christina she's impatient, but maybe I can work through this with you? And how many times does Christina have to say, well, you know, I'm trying to open up and I need communication? But what she did say this time firmly was a deal breaker was not to be communicative. So maybe that'll work, but I don't know. I still think they're on different pages. They're trying to meet in the middle, but they both have to want to meet in the middle.
All right, everyone. That was the end of this week's episode, and it was rolling. It wasn't as much as grasping for straws as the other episodes were, because they did give us some new content for the most part, and it was entertaining. What do you think about it?
I think so too. And the content is newer because there's more day-to-day life going on, and they have to deal with the outside pressures, the inside pressures, and whatever's going on that we don't know.
I'm still waiting on when the coronavirus is going to happen, because that is going to be something. So thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure you comment down below and let us know what you thought about this week's episode, because we love reading every one of you guys' comments, and they're so entertaining, and we just love your comments. Also, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, you share this video to other people who watch Married at First Sight, and you become one of our wonderful subscribers, so you can be on the lookout for when we go live this Sunday at 12 p.m. West Coast time. So make sure you guys don't miss that.
12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is much better. But thank you all for watching, and as always, live simply, be grateful.